Okay, let's get started. So good evening, health science students. Thank you very much for attending this session on graduate school. We are very excited to have so many of you present this evening. My name is Rachel Pizzonia. I am the Vice President of Student Affairs on the Faculty of Health Sciences Student Council. For those of you who may not be aware, the Faculty of Health Sciences Council is a representative body of all undergraduate students of the Faculty of Health Sciences, and it consists of students from all three schools, from kinesiology, nursing, and health studies. So for those of you that may have questions or need help or any assistance, you can find us. We all have our white virtual backgrounds with our name, role, and position. So if you have any questions, feel free to message any of us, and we'll be happy to assist you. For those of you also who may not be aware, this is our first academic session of the year, and we are very excited to host many more of these types of events in the near future. So be sure to follow us, the FHSSC, on Instagram to receive all important information regarding upcoming events. Now, with this session, it will be led by Mark from the School of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies and Dr. Andrew Johnson, Dean of Undergraduate Programs in the Faculty of Health Sciences, and they will answer all your questions. So with that, let's get started and take it away. Thank you again for attending.
Thanks, Rachel. Hi, everybody. Good group tonight, 47 people. That's pretty great. I think this is one of the bigger Zoom sessions I've had ever, even during COVID. So nice to have everybody here. If you do have the ability, if you could keep your microphones muted, but if you could turn your cameras on, that'd be great. I do like to see happy, smiling faces of real people where possible. If it's not possible, don't worry about it. But you know, we can't do this in person, so let's make the most of our virtual connection here. I will share screen, and we can get started with the formal presentation here. So I've given this presentation 2 or 3 times now. It's actually started during COVID, so I'm happy to do it again for you, customized for health sciences students here. So basically the focus is, you know, if you're thinking about grad studies, if you're curious about grad studies as you're winding down your undergrad experience here, the focus of this session is really to go through, you know, why graduate school might be good for you, how it's different than, you know, your lived experience now, and the benefits of continuing on here at Western, hopefully. I'm also going to include kind of details about funding packages, a little bit on how to apply, and then we can do like a Q&A afterwards. So this session is being recorded as well, which is great. Rachel, thanks for doing that. So she'll figure out a place to post it and share. So Dr. Johnson and I, here's our contact information. If you need to get in touch after the session, anytime for anything, feel free to reach out to either, both of us, if you have any questions. We are here for you. So here's our agenda for this primer tonight. First, we'll touch on kind of what is graduate school to begin with, because it's maybe not what you think. Why you'd want to engage in graduate school, why you'd want to stay here to do that, your grad school experience versus your undergrad experience. I'll talk a little bit about funding support packages, how to apply, and then, like I said, some Q&A. So let's start first on what is graduate school. So here, I'm the communication manager for the School of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies. And we're kind of like the registrar, but for the grad community. So all things graduate are managed administratively through us. And there are 3 types of degrees in overview. You can have your graduate diplomas, which are 1 year or less. We have some graduate diplomas that are actually 1 term, 13 weeks. You have the next kind of level up in the hierarchy, which is a master's degree. And that could be MA, MSc, MCLSC, MMJC. We've got about 23 different master's designations. Many different ones, even within health sciences. And then the highest level of graduate degree, which is kind of the apex of your university experience. If you're really into things, you can get your doctoral degree, which would be most commonly the PhD, your Ed.D., which is the Doctor of Education, and the DMA, which is a Doctor of Musical Arts, which is a performance degree. So those are grad degrees. But you don't have to go to graduate school. If you want to continue your education, obviously, you can go to college. Or if you're going to stay in university, you can get a few other different kinds of degrees. And I think some of this was cited in the spreadsheet that Rachel shared with me. The JD is for lawyers. I think some of you mentioned you wanted to be medical doctors, the MD, or go into dentistry, DDS, or become a teacher, your BEd. None of these are graduate degrees. I don't know what they are, but they're not graduate degrees. So that's kind of the difference here. So when we're talking today, we're going to keep our focus on graduate diplomas, master's degrees, and doctoral degrees. And if you have any questions while I'm speaking too, feel free to just speak up or raise your hand, and I'll address them as we're going along here. I can only see about 5 or 6 people at once while I'm sharing my screen, so it's probably best if you just unmute your microphone and then say, "Hey, Mark, be quiet. I have a question." Okay. So there are 2 types of master's degrees. So the first type is a professional master's degree. And the professional master's degree gives you kind of specialized skills and training for a specific job. So if you're coming out of your undergrad and you kind of don't know what to do, but you kind of have a passion for a particular area and you want to, elevate your attractiveness to employers in a specific sector, that might be the way to go, a professional degree. And these professional degrees may include an internship, a coursework, or a major research project, or a capstone project. People call them different things depending on the degree you're in. And OT is an example of a professional degree. And the MLIS is another one in a different faculty, and the MBA is another one in a different faculty. But you've got a few, and I'll give you an overview of your degrees specifically within health sciences when we get to that slide. So with professional masters, you have to pay. So in that way, they're kind of similar to your undergrad experience where you have to pay, but some of them you can get OSAP, you can get donor awards, bursaries, other loans, but they are not funded. The other type is the research-based master's degree. So this is probably, when you think about graduate school, probably what you're thinking, I would assume, where you're interested in a field of study and you want to start digging a little deeper into that kind of research. And we say research, scholarship, or creative activity because if you're working in the arts, you're getting a visual arts master's, you may be doing an exhibit, you may be in English doing some other kind of scholarship work. In the health sciences, you're typically doing some kind of research, more traditional research. So this is often a good route if you're in an undergraduate degree and in your 3rd or 4th year, you did a thesis project and you started getting a taste for it, but you finished your undergrad and your interest was really piqued and you feel really passionate about it and you want to learn more about it. This is the way to go. These types of master's degrees are excellent as terminal degrees, meaning that this would be, you get your master's degree and then you move on to employment. Or if you want to go to your doctor's degree, that's kind of the stepping stone to get into your PhD. So in this case, research degrees are funded as part of a university funding support package. So you're not on the hook for all the funding. And typically you're paid through, a variety of things like you could TA, Western graduate scholarships, and your tuition's covered as well through this funding support package. And the other kind, which I talked about as well, is the graduate diploma. So I started with the master's degree because that's pretty much the typical route undergraduate students take if they're going to go for their higher education. But graduate diplomas are also an option. Like I said, they can range in length from 1 term to a year. And they're designed to build your skills really quickly beyond the undergrad. And you don't need a master's degree to take them or a doctor's degree, but you can do it right after your undergrad. You can do these concurrently with your master's or doctoral degree, or you could have been in the workforce for 5 years and you want to bone up on a skill set to get a promotion. you could take a graduate diploma to enhance your credentials. And they're usually pretty flexible. Our newest one generally here on campus is a graduate diploma in climate risk and assessment, which is 100% online. We've never offered 100% online graduate diploma before. So this is kind of cool, and it can be taken by anybody around the world because it's online. So it's something that you can take in a relatively short time frame, get the credential very quickly for a good price, and move forward that way. And again, like the professional masters, this is more akin to the professional masters, you have to foot the bill. So right now across campus, we have 9 GDIPs, accounting, health sciences, medicine, law, engineering, and public admin. And again, we'll talk more specifically about what's offered in your faculty in a few minutes. And the highest degree is the doctoral degree. And this is where you are truly into the research. It's the highest degree you can receive from a university. It typically has some coursework and comprehensive exams or comps, as you may have heard. But they're largely composed of you, head down, reading and writing about a topic and knowing everything you can know about it. You will complete a thesis or dissertation under the under the direction of a supervisor who will guide you through. Then you defend at the end of the 4 years typically, and figure out your next steps from there. And then you become an expert in that particular area of research. So here at Western, we offer not just a funding support package, but a doctoral funding guarantee for students in these programs. So our current doctoral funding guarantee is $17,000 plus your tuition, which is around $6,300. So you get about 23 grand. And out of that, your tuition comes off that, and your other fees, healthcare costs or whatever comes off the top, and then you're left with the remainder. And the remainder comes from, like I said, TA ships and other sources of funding. So it's not like you get free money to do nothing, but you do get paid to go to school, which is kind of a nice thing. Okay, so any questions about that section, about the 3 types of graduate degrees? Okay, so why graduate school? So in general, those who have a graduate degree generally have the lowest level of unemployment, have the most stable employment rate, have experienced the largest growth in employment since 2004, so about the last 20 years, and are the largest group in demand. This is from an older employment report now, and I'm actually waiting for some updated data, but the Council of Ontario Universities, the Canadian Association of Graduate Schools, and the other grad school associations haven't produced anything more recently than this broadly. So this still rings true today. And this is some more recent data, which I thought was fascinating. When Stats Can't put this out during COVID. And if you just compare kind of undergrad, master's, and doctoral degrees based on their sample sizes, as you can see, as you're going up the hierarchy in university education here, we start with kind of an 81,000 sample size, and then we go to an 18,000 sample size, and then about a 3,000 student sample size. But this is because as you go up, less and less people pursue this kind of education. So just by you taking the next step, if you choose to go on to graduate school, you're already at a competitive advantage. And if you look here at just some of the stats from the median employment rate after 2 years, comparing apples to apples here, you're going to come out making about 20 grand more right off the hop. And then after 5 years, you're making a nice chunk of change as well. So this is quite a significant jump. You have a nice jump here too at the undergrad level, but you're seeing almost a 20% jump from 2 to 5 years. And what's fascinating, Andrew and I were kind of looking at this data last week. Look at the median here, where your master's actually pays off a little quicker, but then in the long run, you see the PhD kind of overtaking, but not by much. So again, this is a testament to, the doctor's degree is for people who are passionate about their research, but master's degrees in this day and age, and health sciences is good at delivering this stuff, you're doing okay, pursuing this and finishing your education if that's what you want to do. So the academic advantages, graduate school is quite different than your undergraduate degree, where you're basically taking a lot of courses in your field of in your major, and you can minor, but also you're taking a lot of general courses too outside of your field of study. This is very focused, advanced, and it is focused on the research. So it really provides an opportunity for in-depth exploration, collaborating with thought leaders in your field, and pursuing your passion. You can become an expert, work with the best people in your field of interest, make a contribution to new discoveries and research, citations, and all the fame and prestige that comes with that. Improving your CV by publishing, going to conferences, presenting your work, networking with that kind of academic world, and then moving on to contribute. Even with a master's degree, you could work as a professor in university or college. So again, it does have its advantages that would put you in a category of job possibility that someone without a graduate degree, doesn't even have a chance of pursuing. Okay, so why Western for graduate school? First, some statistics. Some of you might know this. We're one of the largest research-intensive universities in Canada, with excellent facilities available to all our graduate students. We're actually the 11th largest research university in Canada. Over 7,000 graduate students, and at last count, I think we were just over 7,600. So this is just the growth that I've seen. I've been in this role for about 9 years now. It's been tremendous, the growth that we've seen just in the last decade. We offer 160 different graduate degree programs, including a range of different interdisciplinary programs. We're ranked among the top 1% of universities in the world. A founding member of what's referred to as the U15, 15 of Canada's most distinguished research universities. We regularly pump out Rhodes Scholars, and our most recent one was in 2019. And our faculty are also, teaching experts, and continue to win awards for their quality of teaching, the second highest in the country, actually. So, Western is a force to be reckoned with, as you know. In your own faculty here, of the 160 different programs, your faculty is home to 15 of them. You have 2 graduate diplomas in applied health sciences and the primary healthcare nurse practitioner. 3 PhDs in HRS, kinesiology, and nursing. And the remaining 10 are master's level. So you've got a variety of things in advanced healthcare practice. CSD is your audiology and speech pathology fields. HRS, with all those fields that we can talk about, kinesiology, OT, PT, and traditional nursing here. So a nice offering right within your own home. Another competitive advantage, and another why Western answer, is collaborative specializations. So Western is unique, relative to other universities, in that we offer these specializations, which allows you to get an added layer of study and expertise and credential working within your health sciences home program, but also working beyond in a collaborative specialization field. And I'll show you some examples here. So when you graduate, let's say you got your MSc in nursing, you could get your MSc in nursing with a specialization in migration ethnic relations, musculoskeletal health research, etc. So again, another route to give you a competitive advantage that you take while you're doing your master's or PhD degree, and you come away with that credential. So there are 14 collaborative specializations here at Western, and administratively, home programs must enter into an agreement with the collaborative specializations. So of the 14 collaborative specializations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 have agreements with HS home programs. So if you're doing any of these degrees, MSc, PhD in HRS, MSc, PhD in nursing, you can also take the collaborative spec in global health systems in Africa. Machine learning, if you're doing HRS, musculoskeletal health research, HRS and kinesiology, music cognition, which I thought was fascinating, and kinesiology in transitional justice and post-conflict reconstruction. So details about all this stuff are available on our website. When I kind of show you around our website, I'll show you where you can find more information on this stuff as well. Okay, some more arguments for Western. Even with the insanely expensive rents nowadays, compared to other major centers and major university centers in Canada, this is data that I update annually. This is just from last winter. London's still doing okay. So we're looking at, basically these are averages. So about $1,400 for a 2-bedroom apartment. The campus is renowned for being rare in Canada in that we're kind of like an island, you know? Like I went to Windsor, and like most campuses in Ontario, in Canada, it's integrated with the city. So you're kind of in the city blocks and the buildings are there, and we don't have that isolated kind of beauty that can be maintained here at Western. And that's always a draw. Whenever I do interviews with students, I always ask, why'd you come here? Or why'd you stay? And most often than not, the first answer is the campus is so beautiful. So we kind of take it for granted being here, but this is really very unique in the province and in the country. And the student experience from a grad perspective too, Middlesex has the Grad Club. Campus Rec you have access to. We've got a great art gallery, the UCC, all the different clubs you can belong to. And there's a whole laundry list of things that you probably know even better than me, being undergrad students here, that would continue on for your graduate student experience. So let's play some video, shall we? I'm going to share my audio. And Rachel, I'll start these. Give me the thumbs up if you can hear. I just want to show you some testimonial videos from your counterparts here in, we'll start with nursing. We'll see if we can bring this up. We can get past
Switch to Chrome to easily store your passwords. So you can sign in with just a click.
My name is Ashley McEwen. I'm in the Master's of Science in Nursing Education stream at Western University. I ended up coming to Western after looking at the curriculum that's offered here in graduate nursing in education, and looking at the research that faculty have been doing in education, and contacting a supervisor here that had similar research interests like my own. And that's how I ended up deciding to come to Western. So my research will explore authenticity and simulation-based learning. I'm really interested in learning how authentic simulation experience impacts nursing students' self-efficacy for entry to practice. What makes me thrive about from our graduate program is our faculty. They have been overwhelmingly supportive and in many different ways. They've always pushed me to publish research that I had done in final papers in their courses. I've always been given the chance to develop myself professionally because of encouragement through faculty. So I've had the opportunity to teach lab, simulation lab, community placement and clinical placement because faculty had encouraged me to do so. The best thing about being a Western graduate student is that Western also allows you to be successful outside of your faculty. So my nursing faculty provides many opportunities for me, but Western itself also provides many opportunities for graduate students. The first thing I would say, especially if you're doing a thesis focus and not a course-based focus, is to get all of your courses done quickly. So focus on getting your coursework done so you can focus on doing your thesis later. Be involved with campus life so that you can continue to develop yourself in a professional manner. So I think it's very important to stay connected with your peers as you continue your thesis work on your own, and it's not always on campus. And make sure, again, you're staying connected with your supervisor so they're aware of all the work that you're doing.
Okay, now we'll look at a testimonial from OT.
My name is Carly Vanderman. I'm studying for my Master's of Science in Occupational Therapy at Western University. I chose to come to Western for my graduate degree as I was studying at a much smaller university for my undergraduate degree. Being able to study for my master's here, it's really helped me to become a better student and get to learn from some of the most knowledgeable people around. The Master's of Occupational Therapy program allows me to be successful because it has a small program size of about 75 people or so. So on the first day, even within the first month, you start to form some really close social bonds and relationships with the other students. And you also start to develop some social bonds with your professors as well. By the end of the first month, typically our professors know our first names, so it really contributes to the supportive and welcoming environment of the program. Additionally, the program has a lot of individual and group work, and they give us a lot of mix between coursework and practical and experiential work. So again, it just further helps us to develop our skills and be successful in any sort of environment that we're in. The best thing about being a Western graduate student is having the privilege to come to campus most days or every day and get to be a part of this wonderful student body where everyone feels supported. They have supports in place if you're struggling, and really your student body, your friends, your professors, they're there to support you and they want you to be successful. So I feel very privileged to be here and be studying. The best piece of advice I could give to someone who is thinking about applying to the Masters of OT program is to work really hard, but to also take that chance and that opportunity if it comes up. If you're confident in your grades, your extracurricular activities, and your supplementary application, there's no harm in applying and seeing what can happen, because if you are successful, you're opening yourself up to a brand new student body, knowledge base, new professors who are able to teach you emerging and current trends, and overall you're opening yourself up to a really inclusive and welcoming environment where everyone is supporting you to succeed.
Okay, now let's look at the last one I have here, which is
all coaches
PT.
can relate to the common concern about investing your time, energy, and effort into a client and not being able to see that client through to transformation results.
Going from survival mode my whole life.
Hi, my name is Pranavan Kadargamanathan. I'm doing my master's in physical therapy here at Western University. I came to Western for my graduate degree because I've heard a lot about the physical therapy program here. I've heard it's got a lot of really good research that's been done in the program. The staff is fantastic for teaching the students about physical therapy and how to progress in their careers. And I just thought it was a very fun environment, somewhere to get outside of where I'm originally from. So the courses are very well laid out in the physical therapy program. They really help us get into the specifics of what the physical therapy career are. They also really help build the foundation of what it is to be a physical therapist, and then go into the more specifics of where we could work later down our career. And it's just very interesting, new stuff that we're actually engaged in, and it's very interactive rather than what we've done in undergrad. I think it's the environment. I think the people that are there with me and in the physical therapy masters, as well as the professors and the faculty, are really interactive, really engaged. It really makes it a great environment to not only learn about physical therapy, but to actually believe you're part of a community. I think there's a lot of great facilities here at Western, whether it's research-based or just for entertainment or for recreational use. It's been very great coming here and using those facilities. And just in general, as a student, the facilities that we have available to us really help engage our learning. Well, physical therapy is a very hands-on career, and for anybody thinking about applying, I would really tell them to try and go out and get the experience that involves physical therapy, whether you're at a clinic, you're at a hospital, you're at a rehab facility, whatever experience you can get to get exposed to the world of physical therapy, I think that's what people should do. And then figure out if this is the career for you, and if you're interested, go ahead and apply.
Okay, so those are a couple videos that I put together, and just so you know, these are not scripted. I just ask the students a series of questions, and then I just cut it together. There's nothing that I tell them to say, and they volunteer to do this. So I invite you to have a look at these on the program page, which I'll show you in a second. A number of students, I've been shooting these videos for about 8 years now, and a number of students over the years have said that they have come to the graduate programs they're currently in because of the student videos, and they reached out actually to the students in the videos. And all the students that volunteer to do this are there to answer questions of potential applicants. So, you know, you've got these people right in house. I think the student in nursing is a few years old, but Carly, I think in OT, and I can't remember his name in PT who just spoke, but they're still here. So you'll have access to them too if you want to learn more, and I'm sure they'd be happy to talk to you. You know, unfiltered information is, you know, one of your best ways to figure out if a master's or graduate degree is right for you. So I encourage you to pursue it. So you got a bit of a sense from those testimonials, kind of how graduate school is different than undergraduate school, but I just want to highlight a couple key differences here. So unlike the grad world where, you know, you submit your applications to OUAC, and I think you can submit to up to 5 universities or whatever it is, and you pay your fee, and then you find out if you got in at the same time and all that stuff. This isn't that world. So there are rolling deadlines for application submission depending on the program you're applying to. So the School of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies is the keeper of the application, but for CSD and what are the other ORPAS programs, Andrew? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank here.
PT,
right,
occupational therapy, and so for within CSD, it's the speech pathology and audiology.
Right. Okay. So that is the health sciences specific application system. So when you go to apply now, our graduate studies system will bump you over to ORPAS. So ORPAS is, I believe, run by OUAC. So that's similar. And again, they do that because there are very few universities in Ontario and Canada that offer these programs. They're highly specialized professional programs. So just so you know, you would be applying through that system. Grades, in this case, graduate program admissions usually looks at your last 2 years of your undergrad degree if you're in the honors program, which I think is a good thing because that's usually when you do your best work in your later years. Unlike the undergrad world, you don't have an academic counselor. So if you're interested in learning more or getting some guidance about what it's all about, OT, PT, whatever, I suggest you contact the graduate program directly, and the graduate assistant or graduate coordinator will be there and happy to help you give more information or direct you to somebody like Andrew or a grad chair or whoever can assist. Typically, you need reference letters from academics. So my suggestion is, because of that, try to start developing relationships as soon as possible. It's a lot easier for a prof to write you a letter of reference if they know you, rather than you coming cold and saying, "Oh, I know, I was in your survey course. I was one of 400 people. Don't you remember me? I need a letter." So get to know these people as best you can. Also, a resume. I mean, I think it was cited in one of the testimonial videos. And I'm seeing this trend more and more often for graduate program applications. Programs are looking for more than grades. There's this whole movement in our world called holistic admissions. And it's a move towards recognizing that grades only tell part of the story, an important part of the story, but that is not everything. And people with so-so grades who have other aptitudes or strengths would thrive in graduate school. So we're really trying to adjust how we assess and evaluate applications. So your resume is important. It shows, your graduate program. Like if you're interested in occupational therapy, if you've been volunteering at a hospital assisting working OTs, that's that's a good thing. That will say something to the program that you're trying to apply to. So, highlight those areas that you're interested in, that you're passionate about, and that are relevant to the subject matter at hand. And again, unlike undergrad as well, you're usually required to submit supplementary documentation like a letter of intent or a writing sample. So again, the application committee can get a sense of how well-rounded you are, the type of person you are, and get a better idea of if you would thrive. So those are some key differences here. So let's talk funding. So like I said, research-based master's and doctoral programs have funding support packages. Doctoral programs have a funding guarantee. Master's programs do not. However, 2022, our average across all master's programs across Western, master's students received almost $24,000. And that's pretty good. So all through our research-based graduate programs, we want to be competitive with other universities. And if we have good students applying, we want them. We want you here. These funds come from a variety of sources, like I said, and will be different from student to student. And that can mean scholarships, grad fellowships, GTAs, etc. And it's important to understand too that although the university gives you these funding support packages to offset tuition and other kind of annual costs, don't expect to pull in a full-time income. I mean, that's just the nature of it. You're still being paid to learn, and that's kind of part of the deal. You're also choosing to not work, so there has to be a trade-off there as well. So just bring it to our funding page. And we gave out over $100 million in graduate funding. So this I just actually updated today. And this is a combination of research income, teaching income, scholarships, donor awards, WGRS. So there's money available as per your merit. So I recommend that you try if you have an inkling, you think you can get in and it's something you want to pursue. So how to apply? I can't stress enough that it's all about doing your research. So talk to your professors, talk to your classmates, talk to current students, connect with graduates through your alumni network, talk to your graduate program administrators. You can't learn enough about what you're getting, and it's nice to know what you're buying before you apply and before you pursue this, because it's not easy. It's not designed to be easy, but like the old adage goes, right? Nothing worthwhile is easy. So if you're willing to commit the time to do it, and you're willing to make the investment and commit, you'll come out on the other side, I think, quite satisfied with what you've accomplished. And so that wraps up kind of our formal agenda here. Andrew, I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to add generally about kind of health sci. I think we touched on the main points, but
I think you touched on the main points. We can throw to questions here, and if anybody has anything specific, then I'm happy to try to answer.
Okay. So yeah,
Obviously,
So for questions, we'll use the raise hand function. If we don't have any questions, I have some questions that students sent in at the time of submitting their interest in the session. So if we don't
I don't see any hands.
Let's get it started with our first question then. So the first question is it worth it to work for a year after I graduate to gain relevant experience in my field and gain a better understanding of what I want to do in my career? Or is it better to apply during my fourth year and hopefully hopefully get that experience, is what this person's trying to say, after I graduate? So is it better to wait a year, or is it better to apply right after fourth?
I mean, that's such a personal question. I think the thing is, there's no roadmap. So if you think you would do well without a gap, like if you're transitioning from university to the workforce and back to university, I'm thinking once you get a taste of a full-time income, it may be harder to come back to academia. and have to give that up after you've had, you know, a car, a place to live, a certain lifestyle. That's kind of my personal sense. But if you feel like your master's application is lacking and you think that going into the workforce for a year to gain experience in the field you want to pursue your master's in would give you that competitive edge, I would say do your research, talk to your grad program, get some good direction, and commit to doing that with the view toward you're doing that 1 year of work as a stepping stone to your graduate program. It's not like you're saying, oh, I'm going to go work, and then after the year, I'm going to assess if I want to go back. So I would say, look at it that way. Look at it as a stepping stone to your master's program, or even look at a graduate diploma, because you could get a graduate diploma and then morph into the master's, because a lot of our graduate diplomas are set up as feeders to the master's program. So that's another option too, where it's a little less of a commitment, a little less of an investment, and then you can pursue from there. What's your view on that, Andrew, from a dean's perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, from my perspective, I went directly from undergraduate right into master's because I was interested in pursuing further information about the genetic basis of behavior, and that's not something I thought I could pick up on the job. I was also interested in leadership style and in the identification and quantification of individual differences in leadership style. So I was able to find a master's program that combined those two things, a supervisor that I wanted to work with, and I went right into the master's program. But I have supervised students that have come in from work. A lot of them have worked as clinicians for a while. They come in and they have a particular question in mind that they want to answer. So for example, I had a master's student, or sorry, a PhD student actually, that came in as an experienced and expert clinician. She was particularly interested in the cognitive competence test, which is one of the most popular tests that are used by occupational therapists. She was mildly incensed by the fact that the test had only been validated in a very small population of individuals, and so she wanted to see whether or not it was as good as it purported to be, and wanted to do her own validation. And so she spent 4 years validating the cognitive competence test and defining the edges of cognitive competence from a measurement psychology perspective. It was a really, really cool project, and we had a good time. The only other thing that I would add as well to your presentation is, and it's a hard thing to kind of convey, and there is a certain amount of privilege in this, but I would say that grad school for me was an opportunity to spend time thinking that I didn't really have, and I didn't realize that this was something that was lacking within my undergraduate degree. But time spent, you know, just thinking and talking to others, and coming up with opinions on a variety of complex topics that when you're in the crush of an undergraduate degree, you just don't have that same kind of opportunity to immerse yourself in study to do, whether it's a course-based master's or whether it is a research-based master's. It is a unique, I think, and in my experience, having done that and then engaged in research afterwards, it's an almost wholly unique opportunity to sit and think and engage with other people who are also sitting and thinking. So anyways.
Great insight. That's fantastic.
Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your insight. We have 2 questions that came to me through the chat, so we'll get started with those. The first question is, I know we didn't really touch about too much on it because it's not really in our faculty, but there's some questions and a lot of interest with health science students with the Master of Public Health program. So maybe Mark, if you can elaborate a little bit on what you know about the Masters of Public Health program and how do they differ from other programs, say, across Ontario?
Sure. So Masters of Public Health actually doesn't live within your faculty. So that's a Schulich program.
Yeah.
There's definitely some crossover with the work. I'll just share my screen again here so you can see kind of our interface. So this Degree Explorer, if you go to grad.uwo.ca and then go to Admissions Explorer Programs, you'll go to this page and you can curate based on interest. So this this is a real-time system we developed in the last 3 or 4 years, and it's proven to be really effective. So if you look at your health sciences faculty here, you'll see here your 15 degrees, and MPH is not one of them because it's Schulich. So we host here within SGPS the program pages. So each one of those programs has a program page like this, and it is basically a summary page according to the exact same template, so you can kind of compare apples to apples. I'll let you go here on your own time and listen to Brittany's testimonial, and you can read about what she says. But this gives you the, what it's all about kind of thing. This particular professional program, it has a one-term practicum. So another key difference too, which I don't think I mentioned, was kind of in the undergrad world, you operate on like a semester system, fall, winter kind of thing, and then you're out for the summer. In the grad world, we operate on a 3-term year. So September 1st is fall term, January 1st is winter term, and May 1st is summer term. So we don't have intersession, summer session, that kind of thing. So this 12-month case-based program would focus on those 3 terms. And obviously one of those 3 is you're out in the field, which is pretty great. It's, again, got a small group. And I think like the PT student was saying, or OT student was saying, one of the benefits of a grad program as well is you get kind of that small group. Like you're not sitting and thinking with 400 people. As Andrew said, you're going to be sitting and thinking with a group of people that you're going to get to know quite well, including your profs, who are more becoming colleagues than, teacher-student kind of dynamic. So admission requirements here, definitely you can get your health sciences undergrad and kind of check these boxes. Stats, obviously, which you get through your health sciences undergrad. And yeah, so, I won't read you the précis, but if you go here, this is the actual program page. So again, you can learn more about it and dig a little deeper there. Does that answer the question in the short time we have? I don't want to spend too much time on too focused of an area, but yeah.
You're doing a great job. Thank you so much. I guess a predecessor to that question is, if you want more information with, across Ontario with programs, who is the best person to reach out to? Because as we said, there's no real academic advisor for graduate programs. So who would be the best person to reach out if a student wants more information about a specific program?
So here at Western, so you can reach out to Andrew or me here. You know us now, and we're here. As for other Ontario universities, you're on your own. You have to do your own research. You have to, figure out kind of where you want to live, where you want to go, figure out the universities in those areas, and then go to their websites and see what they offer. So yeah, they will each have their like School of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies or equivalent, and then you can kind of compare that way.
Perfect. Another question we have, I know that a lot of the programs require and want reference letters. So a few questions that came before we started our session and in the chat are regarding how to approach, going to profs and getting reference letters, what the best method would be. And considering the COVID year and a lot of students have been virtually learning, it's kind of hard to build some interaction students are finding with profs and finding reference letters. So one of our questions is even, do academic reference have to be profs from my first year, since my first 2 years were mostly online? Is it okay if they're mainly 3rd and 4th years, or does it matter what kind of reference letter you have?
I can probably speak to this, Mark. Personally, I think actually you want to have professors from your 3rd and 4th year. The idea is that if you think about your undergraduate degree as gradually focusing you in more and more on the specific area of interest that you're primarily going to end up in, and you don't necessarily have to do graduate work in your own in the area that your undergraduate degree focused on, because we have a lot of interdisciplinary graduate programs that take students from a variety of different areas. But by and large, by the time you get to the end of your 4th year, you will have had experiences with professors in smaller class situations, much smaller than you would have had in your 1st and 2nd year. The other thing too is that those professors that you have in your 3rd and 4th years will have seen you in more, obviously in higher level courses, higher order thinking opportunities for them to be able to evaluate you on the things that you're going to want to have them evaluate you on in grad school. Going and speaking to somebody that taught you in 1st or 2nd year, they may not be able to actually speak to the kinds of skills that a graduate program is looking for. Graduate programs, they all differ, as Mark said. There's all different flavors of admission requirements and things that graduate programs are looking for. But by and large, we're looking for integrative thought. We're looking for an ability to synthesize information across multiple different inputs. Many programs are interested in quantitative ability, numeracy ability to take numerical information and translate that into something that doesn't cause people to run screaming from the room. So there's those things that you do in 3rd year, writing, getting group presentations, speaking in front of others. All of those tend to be more common in your 3rd and 4th years. So don't feel as though if you're only now getting an opportunity to interact with faculty members at the 3rd and 4th year level that that this is putting you at a disadvantage. It's actually that's far from the truth. So, but as far as how do you get those reference letters, I would encourage you to approach your professors. And again, here research is key. Those students that have heard me talk in the in various other venues as well, when we've talked in the experiential learning course, for example, or in other presentations I gave last year, you want to look into what the faculty member does as their area of research interest or as their teaching interest and try to come up with interesting questions for them. Just as a bit of insight into the personality types of individuals that tend to become professors, if you want to talk to a professor at great length, there is nothing we like talking about more than our own research. So we do truly believe that everybody deserves to hear about our research. So I would say that would be the #1 tip that I would give is go and do, and I mean like real research, like not, so students that have taken health sciences statistics with me know that I tend to focus a lot of my examples on Parkinson's disease, because I have a personal and professional interest in Parkinson's disease. And so, coming up and saying, I think Parkinson's is really cool, is probably not, it's probably not it. If you wanted to look into it a little bit more, you might come up and say, like I have a family member who has Parkinson's disease, and I found your research on caregiver stress really interesting, and I'm interested in that differentiation between caregiver stress and caregiver burden, and it really speaks to me on a personal and cultural level. So those are the kinds of conversations that a professor goes, this person probably wants to go to grad school, and it's worth giving them a few minutes to chat. Right. So that would be my starting point. Don't underestimate the importance of office hours, going to see professors during office hours, asking insightful questions about the course content. Even if you have nailed down all of the concepts in the course, going in and asking some insightful questions that go beyond the course content and that allow you to make connections with your other material. That's something which also catches the attention of some of your faculty members, and may encourage them to write reference letters for you. And talking a little about the research that you want to do in grad school, because hopefully if you're planning to go to grad school and if you're planning to do some sort of a research-based master's, you come in and you say, I'm interested in doing research on this. Do you have any insights on that? Then that might be another hook to try to gain access to somebody to write your reference letter. But it is tough. I can write about 25 reference letters a year, and that's about it before I hit saturation, and I just don't really do anybody any good at that point. So probably get 45 or 50 requests a year, which hurts my soul to a certain extent, because I can't accommodate all of the requests that I get. And give the faculty member lots of time to write the reference letter. I need a reference letter and I need it by next week. The answer is usually going to be no. So those are I'm giving you lots of tips there, but it's probably one of the hardest parts of the application process. Start early and give it an honest, deep effort in trying to secure those reference letters.
Well, those are some great tips. Thank you so much. I think our students have a lot to walk away, and they can be more relaxed on how to approach profs. So thank you for those tips. Another question that we've received is it possible to do a master's degree of a different topic than your bachelor's degree? For example, could a nursing student apply to a master's in communication science and disorder program?
Well, communication sciences and disorders, and I'm assuming you're talking about the professional program, the Master of Clinical Science in Speech Pathology.
I'm implying. I'm pretty sure that's what the student meant in the chat.
Right.
For sure.
So those are professional programs. Those would be programs that are designed to be clinical master's degrees, and so there are very specific admission requirements. And if you meet those admission requirements, it doesn't matter what degree you did in achieving those admission requirements, you can apply to any of those programs. The more common question that I get is, can I apply to a research program from a discipline that is other than the discipline that the research program is housed in? And the answer to that is also yes, right? Provided that you meet the minimum requirements for the research program, the research master's program, you can apply to any program from pretty much any undergraduate program. There are some exceptions. And they're mostly exceptions from outside of health sciences. Health sciences recognizes that there are many paths to understanding the health of an individual because it is a multifaceted and multidimensional kind of thing, right? But if you're looking at doing a master's degree in psychology, for example, you'll have to have an undergraduate degree in psychology. I would imagine, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that a master's degree in chemistry or physics, I would imagine that your undergraduate degree should probably be in chemistry or physics. But if you wanted to do a Master of Health Sciences in leadership, your undergraduate degree doesn't have to be in kinesiology, or it doesn't have to be in health sciences. It could be in nursing. I had an excellent Master of Science student in health and rehab sciences who was studying health promotion, but her undergraduate degree was in nursing. She was a nurse first and did not do an undergraduate degree in health sciences. As I said, the student that came back with the burning desire to validate the cognitive competence test was a long practicing occupational therapist, and she came back to do a PhD in measurement and methods, right? So dove right in and got into statistics type stuff, right? And why not? Because a day without statistics is like a day without sunshine. So, yeah, I don't know if that's enough information for it, but I guess the answer is a qualified yes. It depends upon the program, but most of the time, yes, of course you can.
And I just want to build on that, Andrew. I think you hit on something interesting. Again, one of the key differences with graduate work compared to undergraduate work, again, I haven't come across or heard of a clever, insightful student that we turned down who wanted to pursue research. There's flexibility kind of built in, and a kind of a place for everyone with the passion and the will to do it. So it's quite a fascinating field, like you said, and I love when you framed it as it's a very unique situation where you have that place and space to think, and creative thinkers can really thrive, I think, in that structure too, in many ways. Because again, so much is interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary nowadays. And it's kind of amazing, kind of the work that people are doing in the research area. So yeah.
I don't accept many grad students for supervision at the moment because of the nature of my current portfolio. But when I was accepting grad students, I didn't look at grades at all. I didn't look at grades at all. I would take students with averages. The lowest average I took was somebody who had an average in the high 80s, and I had to, or sorry, high 60s, I should say, high 80s, high 60s. And, the student was admitted on probation. And, the idea was that you're going to really show yourself in the PhD program, work really hard, and you demonstrate that you can actually do well in coursework as well as just in these really cool research ideas that you had coming in. And so it was the research ideas, it's the fit. Mark, you and I were talking a little bit about how to select a research supervisor. I think the professional programs and the course-based programs, those are easier for students to do research on. It's the research program that's hard to wrap your head around, because a research graduate degree, you spend very little of your time in courses. You'll take like 3 or 4 courses, and then the rest of your time is self-directed research. And so, like, what is it that you're going to be doing within that research degree? Well, you are, if you come and do a research degree with a supervisor, then most of the learning comes from that unique relationship with the supervisor, right? And there's a couple of things, a couple of observations I've had over the years as to what makes a really good supervisor, and this is in order for me. The very most important thing is your fit with the style of the supervisor. If you're looking for somebody that is going to want to meet with you every week, to go over what the expectations are and to provide you with very specific tasks to do in the lab, and that's perfectly valid. There are research supervisors like that. You're gonna want to make sure that the person that you go to work with is like that. If, on the other hand, you're more like I was, and you just want to kind of show up and give your supervisor a high five and say, see you in 2 months when I got some cool stuff to show you, then that's a very different person that you're looking for. And if he'd wanted to stand over me and make sure that I was working on the computer all the time, then we would not have lasted very long. You also want to make sure that your supervisor is well known to their colleagues. And it sounds shallow, but it's more than that. Because one of the things that we know is that a student is going to be more likely to finish their graduate degree if they go to conferences. So try to find a supervisor that other people have heard of, if you can. And everybody has a starting point, and everybody is not everybody is famous immediately when they start their work as a faculty member. But if you can pick somebody who has more experience in the field, they're more likely to be able to take you to a conference and say, hey, this is my colleague Bill Revell. He's the guy that wrote that psych package in the R programming language that we use in class all the time. Isn't that cool? Or things like that. And so a famous or well-known or well-connected supervisor is going to be able to introduce you to more people at a conference, and that's a good thing. Again, something that seems kind of shallow is you're going to want to try to find a supervisor that has some research funding themselves. That is something that is one of those questions that I would ask of previous students. Funding not only provides you with money that you can use to fund things like eat and live in an apartment. That's important, but it's also important that they have enough money to support the actual research activities. So they have enough money to pay to pay participants. They have enough money to buy equipment to do the actual research that you want to do. And the other part of that as well is that if a supervisor does have some research funding, then they've also demonstrated that they can do some of the tasks that you're going to want to learn, which is writing research grants and applying to other agencies to get your own money to do research on your own when you get to the next level in your own research degrees. And then the fourth thing is, and this Mark touched on this as well, is that you want to make sure that you talk to their previous grad students, because you want to make sure that the person you're working with is, and I cannot stress this enough, kind and a decent human being. And you're not going to get that from their CV. You have no idea by looking at it. They published 150 papers. They must be a good person. Doesn't work that way. So I would say definitely talk to their previous grad students. And those are the kinds of things that I would do if I was trying to evaluate a program. As Mark said, you've got to do your own research, because even if we were to tell you, like, you should totally go and work with X at this university, that's somebody that's right for me, right? Like I am the person that wants to go and sit at the grad club and debate whether Batman was a sociopath or a psychopath. And so, like, if that's not you, then you're not gonna have a good time with my friends, right? And that's fair. So anyways.
No, those are some great advice on supervisors. So thanks to both of you. I'm noticing that quite a bit are dropping off, but there's 2 really important questions that are coming through that I want to make sure that we answer. And Mark, I think this one's more so for you. I think you touched on this, but maybe just driving home the point a little bit. And it's regarding the differences between thesis, course-based, and project-based. And I guess the concerns that students have is, how do they know which one is more so for them, and how do they know if they're making the right choice on as to which one they're picking with regards to those 3 options with curriculum?
Yeah, it really depends on the outcome. Like, more often than not, if you have an inkling that you want to go to the doctor's degree, well, then the research-based program will be kind of the one you're going to do. That's kind of a no-brainer. But if you go to the Degree Explorer, you can look at kind of the curriculum options here. So professional programs administratively are either tagged as course-based or project-based. So if you sort, you can see that we have 83 professional programs, and that'll capture all the masters and the GDips. PhDs are always thesis-based. There are research-based programs. So you're only looking at the professional programs. So again, if we sort on the professional programs in health sci, now we're sorting down to the 10 masters and GDips that you have here. So again, it's all outcomes. And I can't stress enough, you've got to do your research. So the best thing to do is talk to the grad program directly, talk to the grad assistants, talk to the grad chair, and see if you can connect with alumni. So people who have gotten, if you want to see what they're doing with their, MN degree or their OT degree, get their sense on what they got out of it, what their goal was. It's got to be driven by you because there's so much flexibility. And likewise, you look at their counterparts who are the graduates of the research-based program. So if we flip it and select the health sci research-based programs, which are thesis-based programs, look at the difference between the MSCN and the MN. And being able to talk to those people and talk to those programs, you'll be able to get a good explanation on the nuances there. I don't know the details well enough because, again, I'm responsible for all 160 grad programs. So I can give you the précis, and what it's about. But it's those differences of thesis-based or research-based programs where you're taking a couple courses and it's about that relationship with your supervisor and producing that thesis at the end of it. The professional programs are generally more course-based internships, co-ops, work experience, a term of doing, on-the-job training with a big paper, but it's going to be connected to the work you're doing in some way. And it's quite a different animal than being passionate about a topic, or like Andrew's example, that individual that came from the workplace and wanted to crack this code on this test. Couldn't have been a better fit. I mean, that's why he took her on, because you spend your 4 years dedicating your life to this kind of work. So it's a different kind of commitment. It's a whole different kind of mindset too. The professional programs are more linked to the traditional workforce as well. When you're in academia, pure academia, when you're doing research-based programs, you're in a different world totally. And that's part of why we created Own Your Future, to give PhDs and research-based masters these transferable skills, because when you're in that mode of academia mindset, you're in that, man, and you're immersed in this world of, debating Batman's, mental state. That's different than on the ground doing OT with elderly people. So you really have to figure out, go inward, You're not going to find the answers to most of these questions you're asking out there. I can give my opinion, Andrew can give his opinion, talk about his experience, whatever. But you really got to go in and talk to people who are like-minded as best as you can. And it's funny, Andrew's quite right when he talks about that supervisor relationship, because we know from our own application data, because we have the applications here, students go into research-based degrees because of the subject matter they're interested in and their supervisor, by far. Because if you don't have a good relationship with the person that is supervising your work, it'll fall apart way too quickly. So I hope that answers the question.
No, that's a great answer. And I think it leads to another question that just came through with regards to the importance of supervisors that you just talked about. And Dr. Johnson, you talked about how the important qualities of finding a good supervisor. I guess the question is, how do you go about networking with supervisors at different schools if you're not doing your master's or your graduate degree at Western and you're going to another school? How do you build that relationship with a supervisor that's from another university?
You're not necessarily going to build a relationship with the supervisor from another university, but in an ideal world, you're going to try to find people that are connected to your current network. I've never actually been able to do this kind of graduate supervisor searching myself. But LinkedIn theoretically should work for this kind of thing, right? Like you should be able to go in, find a faculty member on LinkedIn and see which other professors they're linked with, right? So if, you know, let's just say you're interested in the hexagon model of personality, in particular dark triad stuff, and you know the H factor within the hexagon model. And so you go, all right, so I want to work with either Keebon Lee or I want to work with Mike Ashton. And so you go into their profile and you find out, oh, geez, Mike Ashton and Keebon Lee both went to school with Andrew Johnson. And I know him from my 3801 class. And so maybe he can give me some insights into what this guy's like, right? Or things of that nature. You could talk to your professors to see if they know anybody at these other schools. If you wanted to go to a particular school, we might know somebody that is doing something in an area that you're involved with, or that you're interested in becoming involved with. So that would be the way that I would do it. The other thing that I just wanted to add real quick to what Mark was saying earlier about the difference between a research degree and a course-based degree is that the primary difference from where I sit is that if you are somebody that thinks that you can get to the kind of knowledge that you want and the transferable skills that you want to come out with through self-directed learning, research degree is for you, right? Because you're not going to get that through the courses, because you just can't. If 75% of your time is spent doing research and 25% of your time is doing coursework, you can't expect the coursework to provide you with the transferable skills. So you have to be the kind of person, like I said, so just using me as an example, I went into grad school thinking I want to learn as much as I can about the genetic basis of human behavior, and I'm interested in mathematical modeling, and I'm really interested in leadership style. So I knew that the moment I got to grad school, I had to learn those things, and I had to learn them on my own. And it's a different world now because there was no YouTube, believe it or not. There wasn't even web browsers in this form that they're in right now when I went to grad school. So, so I had to go to Colorado to, ask around and have people show me how to use different pieces of software and stuff like that. Now you can actually do a lot of this work on your own, work with other professors across the university. But if you're interested in that kind of personal exploration, then research is for you. I can't imagine a more exciting way to learn myself. But again, everybody's different. So.
No, that was very well said. Thank you so much. I think the last question that we'll ask is regards to marks. We have some students that are a little concerned about maybe the GPA that's required and maybe the balance of extracurriculars with marks. So Mark, if you have a little bit of information or maybe some information that will de-stress some of our participants, when schools give those average cutoffs, how heavily do they look at those cutoffs versus extracurriculars that students are participating in? What's kind of the balance between marks and extracurriculars when postgraduate schools select students?
Things are changing. Like I said, things are moving more towards a more holistic admissions kind of approach. We have our kind of regulations that give, this is our baseline. Again, all programs are different. I can't stress that enough. So you have to look at the individual program specific websites here, but you need your honors degree and you need at least 70% from your last 2 years of your undergrad. But it's fascinating that if you're, bringing work experience to the table, interesting questions. Andrew's citing that he, took a student with the high 60s, amazing. Exceptions can always be made. And so if you've got what it takes and your passion's coming across as well, grades are being weighted less in the gamut of variables that programs are looking at to admit you. So we want excellent students that merit being here, as do other universities. Don't get too worried, but if you're meeting kind of that 70% minimum, then you're gonna have less obstacles to begin with. So that's something good to shoot for.
For research-based master's degrees, and every program is different, as Mark said, but for research-based master's degrees, it seems like 75 is a magical number. for your average across your last 2 years, where there's many fewer barriers for you if you have 75. 70 to 75 is that range where, well, you really better bring it with other stuff. But over 75, there's fewer. That's kind of a nice threshold to kind of aim for, and an 80% average going into a research program is quite excellent. That's an eyebrow raising. Average within a research program. Professional programs are much different. Obviously, physical therapy, extremely hard to get into. Occupational therapy, increasingly difficult to get into. Both speech pathology and audiology, not easy to get into. But you know, they are different, right? They are professional programs, specific clinical programs, highly in demand. I think we're looking at 10 or 15 applicants for every space, or more, right? So those ones, I would say, yes, grades are very important. And for those ones, the thing to be thinking about, if you are thinking about physical therapy, I looked through that spreadsheet you sent, Rachel, with, you know, common programs that were requested. If you are thinking about going to a grad program, you don't get in on your first shot, then doing another grad degree is a good shot. If I can put in a plug for doing graduate GDIP credits instead of doing a year as a special student, I would put that in. You know, from the perspective, just so you know, this isn't a self-interested thing. You know, we promote the GDIP and those kinds of credits because we feel honestly that it's better for students to continue moving forward and gaining credentials and qualifications rather than doing a year as a special student simply for the purpose of raising an average. So if you can get into a GDIP, that sometimes gives your average just that little bit extra something. And even if you ultimately decide not to go to grad school or are unable to get into grad school, you with those additional certifications and GDIP credits, it does provide you with more qualifications that improves your ability to get jobs outside of the university. So I would encourage you to think about those kinds of things moving forward. When you know, if you are worried about grades, then know that, you know, you can eventually get there. It just may take longer, right? So I have a little sign on the wall of my office that says my speed doesn't matter. Forward is forward. And that applies to going to grad school as well. Forward is forward. Speed doesn't matter.
Forward. I love that. That's great. That's a great slogan to take away from this presentation. As we approach the last 8 minutes, many of the students here are seniors. Do you have any just final words of wisdom or some advice to some of our students as they begin embarking on their application processes? Any tips, any words of wisdom that they can walk away from this presentation, words of encouragement or anything like that either of you would like to share?
I've got something else. If I can kick it off, Mark, and then I'll throw it back to you. Okay, so the big thing that I would encourage you to think about when you're thinking about going to grad school is to go to grad school for what I would consider to be the right reason. Obviously, I am biased in this regard. I would encourage you to think about grad school as part of the journey as opposed to a destination, and as opposed to thinking about it as something that's going to necessarily be a path to riches. I'm delighted to hear that it may be a path to riches, but it's primarily a path to more knowledge, which is a goal in and of itself. So if you think about grad school as being something which is going to give you a cool opportunity to think and be and learn and start a journey of lifelong learning, then I think that's a good thing. And to think about it in those terms, that actually I feel as though that is going to take some of the stress away from believing that there is only one path that you have to follow. There are so many grad programs. Would love to see you stay at Western, but if you decide not to stay at Western, there's a lot of universities within, you know, driving distance of Western, right, that have fantastic grad programs and grad dips and professional programs and everything else. So think about multiple pathways would be my big thing, and to go to grad school for the right reasons. Mark?
Yeah, and I think building on that too, everybody, it's all about insight and really what you want to do. I mean, so much of you know, going to grad school for the right reasons is all about fit for you, and it's all about relationships. it's so different than the undergrad experience because of that really personal, insightful thinking kind of bubble that you're within. And even when you're doing the professional programs, I mean, part of the reason why audiology and the CSD programs are so hard to get into, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, aren't there only 5 schools that offer that in Canada or something crazy?
I think it's that small a number. There's only,
Yeah.
I think there's only 5 that offer audiology. I think there's more that offer the speech pathology. Audiology is much more specialized and small.
Yeah, it's very, very elite. But if that's your passion and, you don't get in at the first kick of the can, keep trying, gain experience. There's many ways to reach your goal. And I can't stress enough to do your research. And when I say that, it's as much doing the research on yourself as it is on the grad programs you're interested in, because you're taking the biggest risk here. It's for university, application committees to review what you submit and to let you in is less of a risk for you to apply and accept going into these situations. Really on a lot of it is a leap of faith. So, like Andrew cited earlier, use the resources that you have at your disposal that him and I didn't have, like the internet. Everything's available to you from the comfort of your own home. And if a supervisor or an individual you want to work with doesn't have a good reputation, it's a small community, and you'll find out pretty quick talking to 3 or 4 people about one individual if they are somebody you want to work with and if there's somebody you want to avoid. So, really feel that out and know yourself, know what you're trying to accomplish. And if it's something you want to do, I invite you as well to stay at Western, because we are competitive with other schools, competitive funding packages. It used to be that, universities would look to an individual getting their undergrad at one university, their master's at another, their doctor's degree at another. That's kind of changed with the internet and the access, because you can access people, in South Africa if you need to tap their knowledge. And we have the infrastructure in place that you don't physically need to be in these places to tap into the best and brightest people around the world. So there's no shame in staying here, and actually many benefits of the relationships you would build upon if you make good connections and click with people. It makes sense to me that you wouldn't want to leave anyway. And you could really capitalize on the fact that the culture, you're integrated with the systems that are already here, and you just be digging deeper, So I hope that's helpful.
That's very helpful. And with that, I will close tonight's session. I want to thank both Mark and Dr. Johnson for taking the time to do this presentation for us and for answering all of the students' questions. It was very insightful, and we've been getting a lot of messages in the chat of support. So thank you to both of you on behalf of the FHSSC and some of my fellow portfolio members who are here helping me this evening. We just want to say a big thank you. And on behalf of all the students, so it's such great information and so informative. So thank you so much again. And with that, we will close the session. We're hoping to send the recording of the session out to everyone that's signed up. So we'll make sure that we get that recording out to everyone as soon as possible. But again, we just want to thank you so much again and have a great evening. So thank you so much.
Thanks all.
I will stop
Bye-bye.
recording.